Hey everyone, we've got a lot to talk about. This is building off of the video that I posted yesterday as it related to Video Game Data Bank, the Amazon DCMA strikes that have occurred on their channel. And this is serving as a follow-up, but also kind of a discussion as it relates to Asmongold's latest video, which he posted just a little bit ago. Link to his channel with the video specifically in the description of this one, talking about how Amazon contacted him, my questions, and then my thoughts, especially as it relates to, in a way, PR, as it relates to this whole situation. So hopefully kind of putting a bookend, at least for now, on this weird chapter in content creation in New World history to give you guys an update, as I said I would. But also I think there's something bigger that we need to discuss in here, and you can always let me know your thoughts below. We're going to dispense with the pleasantries and just kind of dive into the TLDR. The video is back up. Amazon has rescinded their strike, and they contacted Asmongold, who put out a video basically explaining the situation. From a move perspective, I think that is the right move. Asmongold has the the biggest reach, the best way to spread said message, as opposed to anyone else. He has also unlisted his previous video, which he's basically reacting to the information because there wasn't essentially enough like real grounded information. If people were just only taking that first video, they could easily then kind of infer or conclude things that are essentially maybe not correct. Amazon said that it was a mistake. They were actually trying to strike an ad that occurred on that video as it relates to selling gold within New World. And essentially that is where you as a viewer, me as an individual, have to make a choice. Are they lying or are they not? And here's essentially kind of the thoughts that I have on it. The assumption and the fear that a lot of people had, and I personally didn't share this fear. My fear relates to the fact that this still, like when it comes to content creation, is undefined for a reason. And, at some point I do think that's going to end in the courts, not this specific situation, but overall streaming rights and who has the right to stream and create content with quote unquote copyrighted material. Again, a gray area permitted by publishers because it benefits them. And a question is that if that ever shifts a different way, what does that look like? We're going to talk about how gamers perceive negative versus how actually marketing perceives negative here in this video as well. But first and foremost, it appears that obviously with the video being back up, this might have been more human error. You could easily discount that and say, well, obviously they're just trying to save face. The thing that disappoints me out of that whole situation is that there's a thread over on New World asking for answers on the forums, like, hey, what's going on? And it was not addressed over there. It was addressed through Asmongold. I do consider that, as I hit the mic, a point of concern, not a point to doubt what they're saying or what Asmongold's saying, because honestly, at the end of the day, why strike this one video when there's a lot of other negative stuff on there? So the conclusion that people were thinking that they're only striking like potentially negative, impactful videos doesn't seem to play out with the reality of the situation, right? Like, why are critical videos of the game remaining up, or even other ones that show off like game-breaking bugs? Take Josh Strife Hayes' video in which the invincibility wiggle the window around continued to maintain up. No strikes against that video that at least I'm aware of, or Josh has said publicly. I would assume that we would have heard that if that was the case. The perceived negative aspect of a video, especially within gaming culture versus marketing culture, is something that I'd like to take a moment to kind of talk to you guys about specifically. The concept that people don't want negative videos out there. And it's the idea that a negative video impacts a game in a negative way. And I see this within gaming culture when the science and the data actually point to the opposite effect. You take, I guess Flappy Bird is a really great example of a video that says don't play this game, and having massive success, and to the point where the guy who built it was like overwhelmed, and I think eventually he pulled it down, but ended up I don't know the whole like history of that game anymore, but you remember that then becoming a cultural like phenomenon for a little brief history of time, and even games still emulating that game alone existing in our world. Negative doesn't mean negative. Like within gaming, there's a percent, like a sense of ownership in that kind of like, hey, especially like I know for me, like within MMOs, like you want to defend the thing that you love. You want to speak like you want this idea of like this is opening, inviting. When in fact, actually a negative video can actually have the best positive impact on a game and you just might not see it. You might see the person like, oh, good, I'm glad I avoided it. But then you don't go see the hundreds of thousands of people who go and actually try it because of a video that isn't necessarily glowing. I don't trust 100% like this is the best game ever and it has no flaws review. I don't, in a way, I've gotten to a point where I don't trust a 10 out of 10. And I think gaming culture is actually moving in that direction that I have. Like there was a point in time where I was a video game review snob. I wouldn't play a game if it wasn't a 9 out of 10 or above. Now I start to question, is it really a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10? What is that scale even based off of? And honestly, I start looking for more nuance into it, but that's maybe, something that I'm going through, not necessarily the rest of the world. But just because something is negative doesn't actually mean that it's actually going to hurt. In fact, one of the things that like within marketing and PR, it's like, it doesn't matter if it is positive, negative. Engagement's engagement. I made a joke because obviously people have, said this about me, and I'll see if I can find the actual comment and actually show it on screen, awarding me with the worst 14 content creator award, which essentially then I saw people in chat when I mentioned that saying, well, at least you've heard of me. And that's the kind of the point I'm trying to get to here, is that the worst thing that could happen is people stop talking about the game. The worst thing that could happen in terms of engagement, and that's why I was like, the thing that didn't make sense to me, and what I said in yesterday's video, was that Amazon has Twitch. Microsoft had Mixer, but like these big companies have these platforms, like Stadia has Google. Like it doesn't make sense to sit here and say like, we don't want people making content for that. We don't want those kind of streams. We don't want those kind of engagements, because there's essentially this other hyper market that is essentially behind that. If you stop talking about a game, like even in the negative sense, like that is the death nail. That is the thing that I think people fear the most. Like if you stop complaining about a game and you also stop, like both sides, if both things happen, that's when you actually have a real problem. If people are complaining about a game, that actually is a good thing. And it might be counterintuitive to like us as gamers, be like, no, like I'm tired of hearing the complaints. Like as in one person who they eventually deleted their comment, but let's just toss that up on screen. Like all I do is complain about, I guess in their view, Final Fantasy, which was funny because especially that comment was, anyway, we'll have some fun. We're gonna have some fun in 2022. I promise you that. The mindset that essentially like, even if somebody is just complaining about a game, that it's like, it's actually not bad. It is a good thing overall, because at least they're speaking about it. At least it's creating engagement. At least that creates curiosity, and you might not believe it, but it actually can then benefit said game. Seems like a little backwards, like math, right? Like the gamer in me is like, huh? But then the content creator in me sees like essentially obviously more numbers, engagements, and things like that. So it's like, it's clearly something that from a marketing perspective, I'm inclined to believe Amazon in this case that it was human error, that they were trying to strike something different, because striking the video specifically, it doesn't benefit them and what their goals are. And the idea that they would try to suppress kind of a negative thought, which in this case, it wasn't even negative. It's just like warning other players to not do this so they don't lose money. It goes against the goals of what Amazon kind of has in place. Now, that being said, do they have, again, like I said, I felt like maybe this is a situation of the right hand, the left hand don't know what's happening. We've seen the left hand and the right hand in multiple situations, especially in 2020 and 2022, not knowing that one head of the Stadia guy who's no longer there, wanting to charge, streamers for playing their games. And then like Google was like, what? Like, no, that goes counterintuitive to what we want. And that brings it all back to what I said in yesterday's video. And I think that rings more true than ever before, is that the grayness of the situation, the grayness that this could occur, that somebody, some game publisher or studio could strike your video because that they didn't like you. We saw it actually happen with PewDiePie specifically, is a concern. It is a problem, and it is something that hopefully will at some point get addressed. And if it goes our way, then that's even better. If it doesn't, then, well, I guess maybe the gray was the right place to be this whole time. Anyway, guys, I encourage you to check out Asmon's video. I think he has some interesting thoughts. Chat engages with them, so he answers some of their questions. Essentially, like, I think right now I'm feeling very proud of the video that I made yesterday and the angle that I took with it. I think that there are some definitely concerns. I don't think, at least essentially as a company-wide, that this was malintent. I do wish that Amazon actually replied to the forums, at least with maybe a link to Asmon's video in this regards. I think that would be at least a nice move. But that's my thoughts. I'd love to know what you think. It's a big, weird day. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Hopefully you guys are doing great. Thanks for watching and listening. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video. But until then, take care.
I just want to say I'm really glad you're feeling better, and I love the videos. Well, I love you too. Michelle? Shoot for the moon, and so even if you fail, you'll reach the stars. Go for the 100K subscribers. Yeah.